not the best known church show. Welcome to Q&A, where in this video series, I'm gonna try to do it every Wednesday. And I apologize if I'm stumbling here because I'm just trying to get this linked up on Twitter. Your questions. What I want to do is every week I want to create content for the YouTube, but I also want to make sure that I'm addressing the immediate, burning, big, hairy questions that are plaguing church leaders and pastors. Because I don't want you guys to just sit and wait for me to address things. I want to also be available, even to the folks that are not part of the fellowship, folks that are not on our client list. This is me trying to make myself available and the expertise that God has given me and developed within me for the past decade to the people on YouTube. So the way that this series will work is I'm going to take 5 of your questions, which I've already got a good list already. But every week I'll be asking my Facebook followers, my email list, what is the biggest, hairiest, burningest question that they have. Pick the top 5 that either I can answer the fullest, that I believe are the most timely, or have the least amount of effort to get the greatest amount of results, which we'll actually talk about as the main topic of today. To get you moving the needle in your ministry. I don't want you just to do things. I don't want you to have just a pretty website to have a pretty website. I want you to actually be on mission as a church. And if you want to make disciples, you make disciples, then your marketing needs to assist that. It should not be here in spite of it. It should not be there to get people into the mission. It should be accomplishing your mission. If your mission is to glorify God, turn your city into a God-fearing city, to equip the disciples for the work of the saints, whatever it is, equip the saints for the work of the ministry, all of your marketing, all of your everything should bleed out from that. And if you think that marketing is just something you tack on to the side and it's like not even the front door, but like the mailbox and people can come in that way, you're approaching it wrong. And that's probably why you have nothing to show for it. So today I'm going to tackle 5 questions that I think are pretty broad, but have very significant meaning for your ministry if you actually implement them and do what I share with you today. So without further ado, let's get into the first question here. And I think this one is let's grieve with those who grieve. Let's mourn with those who mourn, because I feel this one in the question. How come no matter what we try, people just don't remember us? Is church growth not in God's plan for our church? I think that should be a question mark. But how come no matter what we try, people just don't remember us? Yeah, that's a thing that I talk to a lot of folks, and that's one of the things that kind of turns people off of promoting their church, is that they get all the promises in the world, they feel like they have a plan, they go and implement, they execute, they follow the steps that they were given, and they have nothing to show for it. And you try that over and over again as a church who's been in the community for decades. You know, so many churches that we work with are mainstays in the community, but despite the fact that nobody seems to know them or their heyday seems behind them. I can't tell you how many churches that tell me at the start of the call, hey, we're about 120, 150, but we were 300 before COVID, or we were 300 in the early 2000s. That's something that, I hear a lot. And you may feel like these people have left the faith, or maybe just gone to a greener pastures of a church. But God's not done with you yet. I think the fact that you're still here shows that God's not done for you yet. Ministry today is definitely for your church. If you've been declining or stagnating, does look different than it did a few years ago. I will just say that I look at church growth a little bit different than the other gurus out there. Church growth is a byproduct of you living faithfully in ministry and doing the work of ministry. Church growth is a byproduct. It's not the thing that you shoot for. It's what we call the lagging indicator, meaning it is the goal, but it's not something you do. You don't grow your church, right? You don't just lose weight. Okay. You exercise and you track your nutrition and you hit the right macros. Those are your leading indicators. So, for example, as I continue my journey, I got about 15 more pounds to lose. I was 365. Now I'm 195, 194, 195, depending on the day. And I want to make sure that I can't just lose that amount of weight. I have to follow certain things that I do every day. I track my nutrition. I try to get under 2,000 calories a day. I try to get 185 grams of protein. I try to do 3 lifts a week. This week's only going to be 2, but that is what it is. Again, 2 cardios, but I broke my knee, so really just it didn't break it, but man, I injured it really bad a few weeks ago. So that's not happening. But I know that because of the other things I'm doing, I can still lose weight. May not be more drastic, may not be as muscly, but I do know that the things that I'm doing will result in weight loss. All that to say, I know you're probably thinking like, okay, stop bragging. Okay, I'm not here to brag. But that is the example that comes to mind. You don't just decide to lose weight and lose weight. You have to have a strategy. You have to have a plan. You have to work with someone like me. I'm working with a coach, two actually. One that's the more the nutrition and the mental health, wellness and health and relationship coach, and then I've got the trainer that creates my workouts and kind of talks me through some questions that I have and alternatives. Right. So church growth is not just something you do, which is why I don't like promoting church growth, even though at the end of the day that's what we do. You don't just grow churches. It's kind of like a cheesy marketing term. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Church growth is just a cheesy marketing term because you don't just make it happen. You have to implement the right steps to. I prefer move the needle in your ministry. So if you feel that God's given you a vision to reach more young people in your church, you don't just do that. You have to have a process. You have to have a plan. You have to have a process, and you have to implement it. And church growth is the byproduct. So I would not say that church growth is not in the plan for your church. Maybe the way that you're approaching it is not aligned with God's will for your church or God's plan for your church. And I will be the first to tell you, again, not every church needs to be a mega church. Not every church needs to get to the 300 threshold. One of my favorite clients told me, he's like, if we ever get past 50 people, I'm doing something wrong. Because by that point, we should be planting another church. And I love that. And so we don't want to just sit here and say, yeah, let's grow the church because that's what we're supposed to do because that's what every church does. No, your church is uniquely equipped to uniquely reach a unique group of people. And that's going to look different for your church than it does any other church. So instead of saying, let's grow this church, it should be, what is the vision that God's given us as a leadership, as a pastor, as a congregation, wherever your vision comes from? How do we make sure that's aligned with our mission, or how does our mission bleed out from that vision? And then what does it look like to implement that? So if you exist to make disciples who make disciples, what is the purpose of a Sunday morning service in that context? And this is where a lot of folks realize that the church growth isn't happening because they're not doing the right things. It's because they're not aligned on the right things. And I went heavy on this yesterday in the Nava Church Marketing Fellowship workshop that we had. We were talking about how you got to take your brand message, so to speak, your the big idea, the big theme of your church, the one thing you want people to remember about you. And if the first thing you tell them to do is not aligned with that, that's a misalignment. And no wonder people aren't coming to you because the thing you want them to do is not the thing you're telling them to do. Okay, an example is, hey, we want people in our community, it's a poor community, we're in a poor area of town, we want them to know that we're here for them, we're here to help them feed their kids when they can't afford it, when school's out, we're here to help them figure out their bills when there's too much month at the end of the money, all that stuff. And then I asked them, I said, what's your first next step? And they said, well, we want people to come on Sunday. How does that help them with their bills? How does that help them feed their kids? And so we realized that the first step is not necessarily we need to get people to Sunday morning. It's we need to actually get them on Wednesday night when we actually have food, when we actually have dialogue, and we can figure out what's really hurting people. Because if you can show that you understand what's hurting people, they will absolutely remember you, right? Everyone remembers that person they met in their life that just asked 3 questions and they were life-changing. The fact that they asked them and you're like, man, I never thought about that. I really do not have things aligned like I thought I did. And you remember that person that encouraged you, not because they told you what to do, but because they understood what hurt, right? I would much rather go to a doctor who walks in and says, tell me where it hurts, and looks and figures out, okay, I got an ortho appointment next week for my knee. And I want that doctor to come in and ask, how did it hurt? When did it start hurting before? What did it feel like after? Lay down on the table. Let me move it around. This hurt, this hurt, this hurt. Let's take an x-ray. You can point to the things and say, yeah, this is why your knee's hurting, and this is what we can do to fix it. Versus a doctor who walks in with a mask and the little shiny ring on his head. I can't remember what you call it. And he comes in with a saw, and he's like, all right, let's replace that knee. And you're like, I didn't know. I don't think I need that. Or he comes in and he says, yep, you got bursitis, so take this medicine. And I'm like, you didn't even look at my knee. So a lot of folks, they think that we just need to grow our church, so we just need to do what other growing churches are doing, but it's not aligned to who your church is called to do. So I would say this to the person that asked this question. How come no matter what we try, people just don't remember us? Is church growth not in God's plan for our church? Look, I think, I lost my background here. That's weird. There we go. Um, I think when you say no matter what I try, sounds like my first question is what did you try before? But it sounds like those things were not aligned to help your church. They were aligned to get you to a goal that you were never meant to take that path. Okay. Again, example. If I got a bum knee, the last thing I need to be doing is a P90X workout where it's 90% lower body because that's the bigger muscles. It burns a lot of fat. That's how you lose the most weight the most quickly. It totally makes sense. But I can't do that if I have a bum knee. Okay. Same thing if I need to work twice a day and you should replace your couch with a exercise bike. Like I know that works. I know that would be great. I have a family. It's not possible. Okay. So without understanding your context, you can look at others and say, well, they have a younger church because they have a younger ministry, because they have younger leaders, and they are more flexible in their time because they don't have kids. You have to look at your situation and say, okay, well, if our end goal is church growth, but what does that look like in our context? If you double your church in 30 days, you are going to break your church. You should not be doing that if you're an established 40, 50-year church. Okay. But if you do want an additional 8 to 12 families visiting your church and you can handle that, then what do you need to take to get there? You start at the end and you work backwards. So I don't think it's not in God's plan. I think the way that you've been doing it is not in God's plan. Is church growth not in God's plan for our church? I would say, is church growth in the way that we were trying Facebook ads, in the way that we were trying mailers, not in God's plan in our church, for our church? Maybe. Because the people God wants to call to him and connect into the local body that your church is not the kind of person that's going to reply to that, to resonate with that. So this is where a lot of context has to matter. A lot of context has to come in. I believe context is king. So without knowing too much more about what you've tried, what you've done, it's not so much that it's not in God's plan. It's perhaps the way that you've done it is not in God's plan. Again, to go back to weight loss, I've tried keto. I've tried, what is it? Not HGH, but the droplets you put under your tongue and it's supposed to make you less hungry. I've tried Weight Watchers. I've tried South Beach. I've tried paleo. Tried all those things. It just didn't work for me, right? The only thing that worked for me was with accountability and support, a high protein diet with regular exercise, right? Like that's what worked for me. But I don't know if that's going to work for everyone else. It's working for my mom, but I don't know if it would work for my wife, right? My wife can't do keto, no matter how much it worked for me or worked for you, because of her blood sugar levels or whatever. So like everyone has to figure out what's going to be right for them. Everything works, but not everything works for everyone. So for this person, I would say it looks like maybe you just haven't tried the right thing, or you've been trying something that can work, but you've been focused on the wrong result. So you've been working on getting people into church, but they haven't been the people you can correctly serve. You've been working on getting people to church, but you haven't been nurturing them after the fact. So I want to encourage you that church growth, it should be in your plan, right? Just even to be a stagnant church, you have to be growing, because over time you are going to lose people. People are going to move away. People are going to be house ridden and pass away. People are going to just stop coming for whatever reason. So in order to be a stagnant church, you do have to be replacing those people. So you do have to be baptizing or bringing people into the fold to replace those people that are leaving. So, take heart. If you are stagnant, that means that there is still life in you, because the heart is still beating. So I hope that helps you. But I believe church growth is always in God's plan. God's always going to be adding people to his fold in the greater kingdom of things. You just need to find the right people that you can serve the best, right? You don't want to invite a Mandarin only speaking person to your English speaking church. They're not going to get it. They're not going to understand. They're not going to be fed. They're not going to be discipled effectively. So you need to find, you need to look at who you are as a church and the kind of person you can serve, not on a demographic level, but a psychographic level, which we talk about in our memorable message training. So you can find more people like that. And that's really how church growth goes. And once you understand that, then you understand what words you need to use to capture their attention, what action you need to take them to get them to engage with your church, and then how to nurture them to keep them coming back. Okay. Next question. I like the way that this question is phrased, because I don't hear people talking like this. How can we make sure that the blessings and transformations happening in our church are visible to others? This is a great one, and this is something that we've figured out pretty consistently and productively to do whenever you have a story of a baptism or a healing or just a miracle. I talked to someone at an event who said, like, he had a heart attack or something with his heart, and he had just like crippling medical debt, and he was just so uneasy about it. He prayed about it, and God said, just call the hospital on Monday. And he's like, I don't have any money to pay. Like, even if they ask me for money, like, I don't have anything. And he felt God just saying, just call the hospital. So in a leap of faith, step of faith, he called the hospital Monday, and they said, yeah, your debt's cleared. Like, it's been paid off. Like, what? He had no idea. He doesn't know who did it, didn't ask anyone to do it, but he felt God moving to make that call, to hear the news, to see the miracle, to share it with others. So I love that. So how can you make sure that the blessings and transformations happening in our church are visible to others? I mean, really, the number one thing you have to realize is have the mindset that everything we do and thank God and glorify God for needs to be on display. Okay? When Jesus was coming in on Palm Sunday and the disciples were rah-rah-rahing and the crowd was gathering and the Pharisees or the leaders said, hey, Jesus, quiet your people down. Jesus was like, no, like even if I quiet them down, the rocks are going to cry out. So God's going to get the glory either way. And if you do it privately, he's going to find another way to do it. But I want you to do it publicly. I don't want you to say, let's just have a testimony night on Sunday night and that's it, right? You have to find ways to share this in meaningful ways. So let's go down the list of a few things that we like to do that we prefer to do. And I will make the recommendations for you. So number one, anytime you have a blessing or transformation in your church, as this person says it, which it sounds like a deliverance church. It may not be, I don't know. But anytime you have a story of salvation, story of a miracle, story of a blessing, story of repentance, whatever it is, whatever you call it, okay? Number one is get it written down, okay? And it doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be like publishable. It just needs to be written down. All right, let me show you a couple examples. I'm going to show you some examples here. Okay, let me pull up here. Let me find my StreamYards. Here we go. Here it is. I'm going to present share screen, and we're going to present this one. Okay. So I want you to write it down. Actually, you know what? Let me get you TSH. I hope that's the website. Let's see. Okay, hold on. Because there's a specific website I'm looking for. Here we go. Don't know why it's not coming up. Okay, well, I was going to show you an example, but I can't pull it up. Not sure why. Weird. All right, so let me go back to full deliverance. And we will go to this page, actually. Actually, no, I'll go here. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Live show. You know how it is. All right. So share screen. And I'm going to show y'all full deliverance. Okay. So first thing you need to do is write it down. All right. Man, I pull this thing up and I'm like, I think of better options. So I'll show you actually mine here. Right here. Okay. Wrote it down. Why did we choose this church? Okay. Here's some other things here. This is all it has to be. Just write it down. Okay. It could be, I was struggling with this and then God showed me this and now I'm part of the church and I'm doing this. It could be we were looking for a church, couldn't find anything good, and then we found this place and now we feel like our family is being ministered to. That's more about the church. It could just be like, I was born and raised in this church and I'm very thankful for the people that God gave around my life so I could eventually find him in the context of where we were. All right. This one's more about the pastor. We are the real deal. Thank you, God, for putting full deliverance in my path, right? So just get it written down. It could be on a notepad somewhere. It could be on a Google Doc somewhere. But get it written down so you can then share it on your website, on your social media, in emails to your congregation or new guests. You could share it in Facebook ads if you have permission, some kind of advertising, okay? So the first step is just getting it written down. That's it. I just want you to get it written down. And it could just be an email. We have a whole form that we use, or recommended email that you can send to your congregation to get these testimonials written down. And not everything has to be life-changing, right? It could just be, hey, I was having a hard time and this church helped me get gas to get to a job interview. Or my brother passed away and our church helped me buy a bus ticket to the next state so I can go to his funeral. These don't have to be life-changing, life-altering testimonies, but ideally, you get a couple of those. But they don't have to be all of them. All right, the second way to do it, so like I said, once you write it down, you'll have lots of different ways that you can use it from there. Again, social media, website, email, Facebook ad if you want. The second thing you can do is share it for your congregation, but film it, right? Like this, right? We got testimonies here. I think we've even got more testimonies here. Okay? And I believe you can spend the time to set up a studio, get the lighting just right, get the right interview questions, and interview this person about their life. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, okay? But for the average church, what I recommend is to have that testimony shared on stage in the context of a worship service so the church can corporately celebrate what God's doing in this person's life or in the community, the lives of your community, but record that and then share that, okay? Some people, some churches, some leaders don't like that because it feels like you're too much of a fly on the wall. I get it. Take the time and do all the fancy stuff. But most small churches, this is great. Just share what God is doing from the stage and record it. Then you can use that video. Again, you can use it on your website. You can use it on your social media. You can share it with new members. Like, hey, here's some of the things that God's doing in our church. And if this is something you feel like you're struggling with, God helped this person through our church. We can feel like we can help you through our church, all right? You want to have people, you want to have videos of this. We just live in a video culture. One of the things that I tell my web team, for us as a business, anytime we make a new web page, it's going to have a video. And I hate that I have to do a video because a lot of times it just has to wait for me, but it is what it is. So you want to have a video. The other thing is go ahead and tell that person to share that story on their social media. And you can also share it as a review on the church Google business page or on the church Facebook. Because that just, again, looking at this here, I received this message in the name of Jesus Christ. That was a preaching. Appreciate you, God. Thank you. I needed to hear this. Bless you. This is a very best church, best Pastor Hickson. Hey, we love Pastor Hickson. Great. Having someone leave their testimony in a review here. This person left their testimony here. I mean, this is something that is like, you can say whatever you want about your church and people will hear it, but when they see other people praising God in your church, they will believe that. They will hear what you say, but they'll believe what other people are saying. So if you can have that person share a comment, a review online, that just helps you even more because they are sharing their testimony in even more places. So if you want to know how to get your blessings and transformations happening visible to others, you have to almost systematize it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. I think that's a bad word for a lot of churches. Systematize. Well, it makes it impersonal. No, it makes sure it gets done. Okay. I don't walk into a sanctuary and it just magically is clean every week. No, there's a system. There is a custodian who comes in and they have a system, right? They dust. And then they vacuum because they know if they vacuum and then they dust, they got to vacuum again, right? And they know every 6 months they have to do a carpet washing. And every month they have to do, every 6 years they got to do a refabricating. What do you call that? Reupholstering, right? Some chairs. So there are systems in church, and that's not a bad thing. For some reason, when I tell people, let's systematize your testimony sharing, they get nervous about it. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, what many people call systematization, what many people call systemization, others call planning and hospitality. Planned hospitality. Okay, it's not magic that you come to my house and it's clean, right? We have a process that starts from the front door and goes to the back laundry room of cleaning the house. We pick up everything, we organize everything, we dust everything, we vacuum everything, we mop everything, we fluff and decorate, and the house is ready for you. Okay, that doesn't make it less personal when you come over and you're like, oh, this place is so clean. How robotic of you. I thought you actually cared about me and loved me and would let me see you for who you are. No. So set up a process. Whenever something good happens in your church, document it, share it from the stage with video, set that archive up of these are the stories of what God's doing in our church, and then start putting them out there. Put them on your website, put them on your social media, put them on your Google reviews page or Facebook reviews, but that does have to be placed by the person, not the church, okay? And make it a habit to share their stories. You can share one testimony 4 times a year in your church, and no one's going to bat an eye. Okay. When was the last time someone told you, yeah, man, God saved me from this medical debt and it was a blessing. And you're like, yeah. You know what? I'm tired of that. Walking away from the church. That doesn't happen. Okay. So you don't have to worry about that. Share your blessings and your transformations. What steps can we take to share the stories of God's work in our church with the broader community? So when you're talking about the broader community, I'm going to assume this question is more about like people who don't know us. So they're not going to come to our website and see our testimony. They're not looking for a church, so they're not going to see it on the Google business profile. They're not friends of our people that are God is blessing. So yeah, okay, totally get that. How do you share it with the broader community? 2 ways. I'm going to give you a free way, and it's also the hard way, and the easy way, but it's not cheap. Well, it's not free. Number 1, the free way is to utilize the new discovery algorithm that is dominating social media right now. Okay. And to put that in context, a lot of churches don't understand how social media works in 2025. And this has been the case. This has been the case since basically the pandemic. Okay. Since 2020. There goes my YouTube cred. It used to be that you had to get followers. So when you post to your profile, your followers would see that. But there was really no way, if someone didn't follow you, there was no way for them to see what you were posting unless you paid for it. Okay. That was the network algorithm. You had to get followers, and then it's like getting people in the building, and then whenever you made a broadcast, those people had a chance to see it. Okay. And even then I say had a chance because at most only 3% of your followers would actually see that post. That's why just posting stuff to social media is not announcing it. Right. We now live in a discovery algorithm age where TikTok and then eventually Instagram and Twitter or X followed is let's not promote content by people you follow, but let's promote content by interests you have. So as you look through Instagram Reels or the Discover tab or on the TikTok For You page or even on your X home timeline feed, whatever it's called, you now no longer only see posts by people you follow. You also see posts that are related to either the accounts you follow or the previous posts you have engaged with. So for me, even though my name on X is Justin Nava Church Marketing, I see a lot of posts about comic books and movies and stuff like that because I have an interest in those and I engage with those and I comment on those. And I'm sure it's really confusing and probably bad branding, but I see equally church stuff and I see equally nerd stuff. That's my people. That's my community. Those are the things I love. As you can see, I have the Bible in comic form. I love this, by the way. I've never quite understood the historical narrative of the Bible until I read it through in this form. So I love this. So they know that I like the nerd thing, so they will show me news, memes, opinions, rage bait from people that are talking about the things that I enjoy, right? So it's not just people that I follow. It's the discovery algorithm. So if you want to share the stories of God's work in your church with the broader community, you need to stop looking at, we need to post this in places where only our people see, and start looking at how do we utilize the discovery algorithm to share this. Okay. So you take that message, you have it written down, you have a video, you have it, shared somewhere else online. Okay. Now you can utilize the interests of others who might be interested in that content. So for example, let's say you have a young woman who is a single mom come to your church She got baptized, and now her family's part of the church, right? Like, she had a hard life. She's a single mom for a reason, okay? Um, Her testimony will appeal to mothers, single mothers, people in difficult domestic situations. Let's put it that way. Okay. And by the way, Google knows all this about you. If you hit your wife, dude, Google knows. All right. Google knows everything about you, and Facebook too. So don't think that you're keeping it a secret. Um, anyways, so it will share that with those women that are dealing with that. Um, Obviously, people in your area, it can appeal to. People who like inspirational, motivational stories, it can appeal to that because that's the woman overcoming her difficulties. It can appeal to lonely people because they want a faith community that will accept them no matter their past. And when every other church turned this woman away and shamed her and said, "Oh, you need to get back with your man because once married, always married, and it doesn't matter if he abused you, whatever," it's going to appeal to people like that. Okay, so there are a lot of micro things in front of that, like okay. So when you share that instead of on your Facebook as a post, if you actually create a reel sharing that story, if you optimize it for social media to be on the Discover tab or on TikTok, whatever, you have a chance of people not connected to you, not following you, seeing that story. Okay? That's the free way. All right? And like I said, it's hard because you've got to sit there and try to play the algorithmic game of saying, how do we optimize this? How do we create a proper hook? What's the right script? What's the right editing? What's going to stop the scroll? Because you're relying on, I got to bend backwards to get Meta, TikTok, X to share my posts. There are some people that are really good at it, but most people aren't. Okay. Which is why we have the second way. It's the way that I prefer, right? And let's just put some money behind it and share this with someone. So let me ask you this, and this is a question for Pastor, this is a question for the finance committee. How many dollars are you willing to put behind 1,000 people seeing what God's done in your church? Okay? It's not. You got to stop looking at it. Again, remember when we talked about church growth and we were saying don't look at it as we need church growth. No, it's we want to see church growth, and here's what we need to do to get to that point. Okay? So stop looking at it as how much money can I get for Facebook ads? Because that's dumb. I'm sorry. Take it from a guy who runs Facebook ads, okay? And start looking at it as if we had the potential to get this story to be viewed by 1,000 people in our city, how much money are we willing to put behind that? You know what? I'd try that for $100. Okay, perfect. So now I can go into Facebook or Meta or YouTube if you want to use YouTube, whatever, and say, I have $100 and I have this 90-second video of this young woman who found faith in our church. I want you to, within a 10-mile radius, show this video to as many people as possible. $100, go. You will be surprised how many thousands upon thousands of people will see that video. How many less than, maybe around 1,000 people will watch the video. And how many people go halfway or complete the video. Which means that for $100, you just got 250 people on a bad day to watch from end to end what God has done in this woman's life and her kid's life in your church. And all you got to do is shoot the video and give Facebook $100, right? Now, there are some best practices that you want to follow, but you didn't have to sit there for hours. What do I need to do to stop the scroll? And what do I need to do for this hook? And how do I get it color corrected to stand out? And what hashtags do I need in the description? All because if I don't get this right, Facebook, Instagram, Meta, TikTok, X, YouTube is not going to show this to anyone. Instead, you're just like, all right, Facebook, here's the video. Here's the title. Here's the quick description. It doesn't matter because you're spending $100, right? You optimize it so your $100 gets you a few thousand more people. But when you're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands and you're reaching zero right now, don't worry about like if you're getting $1,000 or $1,010. The fact that you're getting $1,000 like from the lottery is great. Don't sweat it, right? Okay. All that to say, just go out there and get the 1,000, and then you can optimize to get another 1,000 for cheaper. Okay. But you are going to see huge, huge returns if you just take $100 and say, show this video to as many people as possible. And then what we do at Nava Church Marketing is we tell Facebook the people that watched at least half that video or completed the video, invite them to our church. And guess what? We get people to church for like $17. It's insane what you can do now. So freeway, use the discovery algorithm. Get in front of strangers. You can do PR and stuff like that. But really, I would just set a budget, tell Meta, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, X. Here's $100. Show this to as many people as possible. And it doesn't have to be a video. It could be an image. Videos just work better. Remember, we live in a video age. All right. Two more. What can we learn from other churches that have successfully increased their visibility while maintaining their spiritual integrity? This one, I have a really simple answer, and I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but we need to get over this obstacle. So, what can we learn from other churches that have successfully increased their visibility while maintaining their spiritual integrity? If you see another church, preferably in your area, but it doesn't have to be anymore. If you see another church that is really becoming well known in their community, and you look at their church and you're like, they are not sacrificing their values, they are not being gimmicky, they are not doing it poorly or shallowly, but they are on mission and they are successfully being known in their community. My number one recommendation for you is to go talk to that pastor, communications director, worship leader. Go network with those people. Okay? You are your network. And so you can only learn so much from the outside. But if you actually connect with the people of that church, the leaders of that church, all right, you will learn what it is. And many times what I've discovered is you learn it's not so much what they do, but it's the why behind it. It's the strategy behind it. It's not the colors of their Facebook ad. It's not the font on their website. It's the research they did behind it to know who they are equipped to serve, how that person receives the right message to take the right action, and you kind of figure out how they figured it out, so then you can figure it out how you need to figure it out. Does that make sense? So the easiest thing, the most direct thing you can do, if you see another church that's visible in your community and you're like, I need to know how they did that because they're also maintaining their spiritual integrity, you need to go talk to them. Okay? And even if you're right across the street from each other, you are not in competition. Okay? God planted two different churches across the street from each other for a reason. All right? You're not two gas stations competing on the lowest price. You're on mission together. You're going to be spending time in heaven together. So don't be enemies, be friends. Okay? And again, this is like if you admire their spiritual integrity. If they're a wolf in sheep's clothing, if they're manipulative, if whatever, obviously that's a different story. Okay? But if they are just killing it, getting seen in the community, and you admire their spiritual integrity, you need to go network with them. Okay? Take their pastor out to lunch if it's a smaller church. Take their communications director out to lunch if they're a larger church. Take someone out to lunch. Bring them donuts. Bathe in the community that they have of leadership. And just see what you can glean from that. I don't think that's anything a consultant can figure out for you. You've got to go boots on the ground. Spend time with them. And I would hope your pastor doesn't have a problem with that. All right, last question. I think this is a really good one. How can we pray for God to reveal our church to those who need to hear our message? All right, love it. And this is something that I struggle with personally, right? Because I get in my own head, just to be honest. You know, I'm like, okay, so God is the one that calls people to him, right? I believe in total depravity. We cannot come to faith of our own. Faith is a gift from God. Conviction is a gift from God. The spirit of conviction is a gift from God. So if I'm going to pray for someone to repent and follow Christ, that has to come from God. So I'm asking God to do what he's already going to do anyways. I'm asking this person to make his decision that they are literally and physically, mentally incapable of making themselves. So how do you pray that? That's something that I internally wrestle with, but you just pray that God moves. I think you pray in supplication and thankfulness. Okay. So I say, God, thank you for the opportunity to co-author your redemption story with you. I know there are people out there that you are going to call to yourself or calling to yourself right now, and they need to know our church exists because we can serve them the best, and they would plug in and be the best member of our body. Speak to that person. Remove the obstacles. Give me wisdom in how to reach that person. In our communications, on our website, on our sign, on our pamphlets. What does this person need? Show me what they need to see you. How can we lead this person to you? I don't have a script. I have a certain way that I pray now. I look at, what's on my mind. What is the story I'm telling myself? What are 4 things that I want God to know? And then I pray those things to God. And so I think you do the same thing. I know that God is calling people to him, and that the people he calls to him are through no result of me. He is the wind that is blowing. However, we are the sails. And my thing is, I want to set the right sails to catch that wind that brings people to us. Okay? So we can, I'll just pray right here how I would do it. I'm trying to think if I want to pray for the church, or I'll pray for this church. God, I know there's someone watching this or listening to this that wants their neighbors to know you, that wants your will to be done, and that you are calling someone to you who would best be served by this person, by this church. I pray that you remove all obstacles to this person, and that you help that leader communicate the right message to that person in the right way to get them to take the right action. That there'd be no distractions, that all obstacles would be removed, that you work inside any algorithm, any search result, any stroke of the keyboard, that person can not only see you, but see what you've done for them and take the right action to get connected with you, to follow you in baptism, to follow you so then others can see you in them. In your name and your will, amen. Simple prayer. I'm a simple prayer guy. That's how I pray. That's how I pray for my church. That's how I pray for the Facebook ads of our clients. Lord, work in this to reach the person that you're calling to you. And that's the whole thing. And that brings me, I guess, I'll wrap it up with this. The person at the beginning of the thing said, is church growth not in our plan? I think the way you've been doing it maybe isn't in your plan. But kingdom growth is all on God, right? People don't like the word kingdom builders, building the kingdom. God's the one that builds the kingdom. I agree. But again, I look at it more like a ship. God is the wind that blows. We're the ones that set the sail. God is the one that's building the kingdom, but we're the tools. He invites us to be the tools. He invites us to be the contractors. Be a good contractor. We're the subcontractors? I don't know. There's something there. So, again, I think that's a prayer we all need to pray as we endeavor to do church marketing well, to represent our church, to represent Jesus to the community as we strive to make our church known. It's not for the sake of church growth, the sake of church growth. It's because we're working as a church in accordance to God's will for our ministry. And marketing is just one of the ways that we do that. Okay? Appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate you sticking around. I think I'll go ahead and post this podcast for those that are still subscribed to the podcast, the Best Known Church Show. But if any of this made sense, if you have a question, you can comment the question down below. I will add it to the queue to be answered next week. All right. And if you want some more help with your church, I would go to you can email me, but I would go to where do I want to send you? I don't have a good link here. You can go to NavaChurchMarketing.com. You can book a next steps call, and you and I can talk one-on-one for 15 minutes max. Your current situation, your current giftings, your current resource, your current mission, your vision, and the next best step you can take to get there. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you all, and I will see you all in the next video.